Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome to the show. We are getting everything in order here for you guys to get started with the first of many bi-weekly shows for you guys. Etsy After Hours show. Just making sure all my stuff is working appropriately. If for some reason you can't hear me, let me know in the chat. But we are going to get rolling here with the show very, very shortly. All right. So, welcome to the first of hopefully many Etsy After Hours shows. This is going to be a bi weekly show where I'm going to come to you each and every bi week, bi weekly, twice a month. Let's just say twice a month. I'm going to come to you guys to talk about all things Etsy. We're gonna dive into Etsy. We're gonna answer questions. We're gonna go over specific topics. We're gonna go over newsworthy stuff. So if you guys are here and you have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. If you don't, you just want to sit and listen and learn, that's fine. If you're here live, you get first priority. Obviously, I'm doing this show not only if you want to attend live, but this will be on my channel after the show is over, so you can come and watch it. If you don't make it in time, watch it after the fact. Watch it multiple times if you really want to do that. That's totally up to you. This will live on the Handmade and Beyond channel. So for those of you guys that do not know me, I am LL. I am the host of the Handmade and Beyond podcast channel, YouTube channel, now the host of this Etsy After Hours YouTube show. I also am the leader of the Handmade and Beyond community. It's a community over at handmadeandbeyond.com where I have resources and tools and courses and things of that nature to help Etsy sellers start, build, and grow their shop so that they can find success sooner rather than later, get the support, get, everything that I learned through my 9 years of selling on Etsy, I bring to the table with those resources over at handmadeandbeyond.com. So if you want to go over there and check out both free and paid resources, you guys can do that as well. And that's just kind of a little bit about me and my background. And like I said, I've been selling on Etsy for 9 years, started off very slow, was able to grow my business into a six-figure business multiple years. So now for the last couple of years, I've dedicated myself to teaching and helping other Etsy sellers because I know how lonely that journey can be. Selling online anywhere is a lonely journey. You're doing it by yourself a lot of the times. People may or may not necessarily understand exactly what you're doing. They may support you, but they may not fully understand exactly what you're doing. So that's why it's, I think, important to have people, like-minded individuals, kind of rooting for each other, cheering each other on, and ensuring that they can help each other be successful as well. So the agenda for this show, like I talked about briefly, it may change slightly from show to show depending on what is going out in the online or Etsy space. But generally speaking, what I'd like to do is go over some Etsy news, some newsworthy stuff, some things that you guys need to know about that's going on with Etsy so you don't have to figure it out on your own. I want to make that easier for you. And then we're going to dive into a specific topic of the week that I want to talk about relating to Etsy or what's going on in the online space, but usually on Etsy specifically. And then I want to take the opportunity to ask, I got a Boston accent, to answer some questions that you guys either left me in the on the YouTube channel, you posted in there, or you're going to ask live. Excuse me. I'm losing my voice already. That's not a good sign. I'm getting frog in my throat. So either you asked me on the YouTube channel before this episode, or you're asking me live. Live will get first priority, but this being the first show of many, people may come and go. It may be a light crowd. That's fine. We're going to continue to do these things as people learn about this show and attend from time to time. So we will build that following as things go. I'm not worried about that. Like I said, this show is for people attending live and also people that are watching it after the fact to make sure it is the most useful out there. So if you do attend, make sure if you do show up, you can ask any question here in the chat about Etsy that I'm going to get to later in the show. And I'm going to make sure the pop so you guys know where this is at. I'm going to say you can ask Etsy questions here. And I spelled it wrong. So if you want to ask them in the chat, go ahead and do that. But like I said, I'm going to dive into some questions later in the show that I already have. If you're live, you get first priority. So the first thing that I want to dive in and talk about, like I said before, is going to be some Etsy news related things basically going on. I do have an Etsy news segment that I do on Fridays on the podcast on the YouTube channel. So this may be some of that. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is brand new stuff. It just came out, so it's brand new. So that's what I'm going to talk about today is some Etsy newsworthy stuff, and then we're going to move on to the topic and some questions. So basically, the thing that just is happening today, you may have learned or heard about this, is the Sell on Etsy app. Um, the Etsy seller app, rather, is closing down, or I'm sorry, Sell on Etsy app. I always get the two confused. It's the app that's white and orange. If you have that app, it may be going away after today. Etsy basically said as soon as today. So I'm not sure what that means. It may be shutting down as soon as today, May 23rd, which is today. So maybe tomorrow you wake up and you don't have the Sell on Etsy app. Make sure you download the other one, which is the Etsy seller app. It's the purple app. And then the orange app is for basically everyone, for buyers. All right. So the one that's going away is the white and orange app, just to kind of differentiate, because they both have similar names. So a lot of people get confused. So be mindful of that. It may go away if you're using it. Stop using it because it's not going to be there for much longer. The other thing that Etsy is that's going on is the Etsy Design Awards. They end May 26th, so you have a couple of days left to apply for the Design Awards. They do it every year. They give away a grand prize. I think it's $25,000. I would say go in and apply. It's not, most of the people that win are huge, well-known shops, but they do pick some little guys here and there. So just go in and apply. You just never know what may happen. They may pick you for future promotions, future marketing, even if they don't pick you for the design awards. And at the end of the day, it's good practice. You should be putting yourself out there. It's a really easy application. If you go on your Etsy dashboard, and scroll down a little bit in the news section, you can there's a link in there. You can go and apply for the design awards. The other thing that's going on with Etsy, they just they just launched their urban campaign in New York and Chicago, specifically with commercials, billboards, things of that nature. So that is going to be important. It's nice to know that our fees and the what we're paying for, Etsy is bringing it back in terms of resources and marketing dollars to help continue to grow not only Etsy, but to continue to send traffic to other shops. And what they're doing specifically too, as part of the ads, especially in the commercials, is they are showing off the feature within the Sell on Etsy app, which is an image search feature. So if you go on to into the Sell on Etsy app, which is the purple app, I just talked about all the other app colors. It's the purple app, or I'm sorry, I'm getting confused myself. It's the orange app, the one that's for everybody. There is an image search feature at the top where you type in what you're looking for. To the right of that, you'll see a little camera. You can do an image search. So it's kind of cool. It's eBay has something similar. Amazon has something similar. So if you find something out and about that looks handmade, people can do an image search. And if it's on Etsy, it should bring up your product. So that's pretty cool that they're basically showing sellers how to use the image, or buyers how to use the image search feature to find more stuff on Etsy. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that's happening besides that campaign is they relaunched their 11-year-old wedding registry. They started it 11 years ago. They reinvigorated it, and they're trying to basically get more people to use that. I think that could be a good thing. A lot of people sell wedding gifts, things for weddings. Weddings is a $billion industry. So it's just one more feature. It's one more avenue for people to come to Etsy and buy stuff. A wedding registry is always a good thing. I'm just wondering if they're going to follow suit and release different types of registries, like maybe birthday registries, or people having babies, and there's a lot of different things that they can do besides wedding registries, I think, to help just make it better for buyers out there. So those are the things going on, the Etsy news items that are going on basically right now within Etsy, so you guys know what's going on. And like I said before, if you're just joining, you want to ask questions that I'm going to get to later in the show, specifically regarding Etsy, go ahead and pop those in the chat. I'll get to as many as I can. Doesn't look like there's too many people here, so it shouldn't be a problem. But as this show and grows over time, hopefully we're going to get a lot of questions. And I have some other questions too that I'd like to get to that some people have asked before. So I'm going to get to those. The next thing, like I said, I wanted to cover some newsworthy stuff within Etsy. Um, Shabby Wonder says if they would get the new app to work properly, it wouldn't be such a problem for some sellers. Yeah, it's going to be buggy. It's been out for a while, so I'm not sure why there's still some bugs. I honestly was just so used to using the old app that I haven't used the new one a ton. I know they were supposed to be continually rolling out new features, so we can always hope for the best. I know they're putting a lot of time and energy into it, so hopefully it will get better. Hi, Jesse from Toronto. Welcome. All right. So the other topic that I wanted to get to today, and I have multiple screens, so if don't get confused with my looking around, I'm not staring off into Never Land. There's multiple screens with multiple things up. Sometimes I get lost in my own screens. So the other thing that I want to get to, the topic that I want to talk about before I dive into some Etsy specific questions is, and this is something that I covered on one of the recent YouTube videos, and a lot of people are talking about it. And I wanted to talk about how it's related to Etsy. So TikTok being banned in Montana right now, and you're like, oh, what does this have to do with Etsy, right? What is it? What does it matter? I don't use TikTok. I don't use social media. Well, the reason I want to talk about it is because a lot of Etsy sellers do use social media, whether it be TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case may be. So the fact that something is being banned, one of those social media apps is being banned, is really kind of important to take into account, because that means that if it can happen to TikTok, it can happen to any social media company out there that you use for your business. And it is a good lesson, just so you know that you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket with one and only social media channel if you do that. And the other kind of takeaway, and granted, this, I'm not going to dive into everything that's going on. There is going to be litigation. It's supposed to be banned effective January 1st. Guarantee there's going to be a litigation. It's not probably going to be banned January 1st. They're going to go back and forth probably for years. Freedom of speech and all that, yada, yada. I don't want to get into the politics of it or what's going on with it. I just want to relate it to you as an Etsy seller, whether you use it or not. So, like I said, it could happen to other platforms out there. So it's important to note, important to have a backup plan A. B, it's important to know too that you don't have to rely specifically on social media to grow your Etsy business. And in some ways, it can actually hurt you. And I know a lot of people out there say, they hammer it down your head. You got to have social media. You got to have social media. If you want to be successful, you got to have social media. Well, that's not always true. And especially with Etsy, it's you can grow your business substantially and be fine without social media. Can social media help you? Yes. Can social media hurt you? Yes. Both can be true. What happens is you basically have two ways to grow your business. You can learn to take advantage of Etsy and the 93 million buyers on that are already coming to the platform to buy stuff. You can learn to better your shop and better your SEO and take advantage of that traffic. Or you can focus maybe not as much on that and focus a lot of time and energy on your social media channels, whatever that may be, and bringing traffic, your own traffic, over to social media that way, or not over to Etsy that way. So you have two ways to do it, and you may do it both ways. But it's important to know that if you are focusing a lot of your time and energy on social media, you may or may not be successful with that. It may be an energy dump. It may be a time suck where you could be better served spending time within Etsy itself, improving your listings, improving your SEO to capitalize on that traffic that's already coming to Etsy. They're already getting 93 million buyers. You just have to figure out how to get your piece of the pie. You don't have to get a million people. You don't even have to get a couple of thousand people. You can do really well with 1,000 people depending on your price points. So figuring out, I think, how to focus your time and energy on your own Etsy shop, trying to better yourself when it comes to your listings, your shop, your SEO, trying to capitalize on that organic traffic through Etsy first, I think is really important before you take the leap, take the jump necessarily to social media. Also, what happens with social media is if you spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and you're getting traffic from social media, which you can do, and it happens. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of successful people that do it. If you're sending that traffic to specific listings within your Etsy business, which people do, and people don't buy, all that traffic is coming in. All those visits are coming to your listings specifically, and then people aren't buying, which does what? It hurts your conversion rate, hurts your performance, it hurts your listing score when it comes to the algorithm. So what you can actually do by leveraging social media is actually hurt your performance of your listing. I'm not saying that's always going to happen, but it definitely can happen, especially if people aren't buying. If people are buying your listing, that's great. That's going to help your conversion rate. That's going to help your quality score. That's going to tell the algorithm that people are buying. They're going to show it to more people. It's going to help your listing improve, rank better, and sell even more. But the opposite can happen too. So just know that both things can happen if you're doing a lot of marketing on social media. Granted, the same thing can happen too organically within Etsy. If traffic is coming to your listing and not buying, your listing, your ranking will sink. It won't perform as well. Your quality score will suffer. But I think it's a lot easier of a lift, and it's better for your business as a whole to really get things kicking within Etsy itself before you start to tackle the whole other beast, the whole other animal of social media. But social media can be a good thing, but it shouldn't be the immediate thing that you jump to if things aren't going well within your Etsy shop. Usually, that's the thing that people jump to. Things aren't going well. I'm going to jump to social media. Maybe that's the fix, or I'm going to jump to hosting my own website. Moving away from Etsy. Etsy doesn't work. Those aren't the things that you should jump to. Why you're not getting sales is the problem is within Etsy, and it's fixable usually within Etsy. So just keep that in mind. That's why I want to talk about the whole TikTok being banned thing, because um, the whole social media thing, and relate it back to the implications of both. And I think personally, an email list is a much better route to go early on, anyways. Starting an email list that you can market to, that you own, that's not through social media, um, is probably the best way to go before even social media. That can help your business long term. Email marketing converts better. You can manage it yourself. It can't be shut down. It can't be taken away. Well, not as easily as social media, put it that way. But then you own your list. You can take it different places. You can transfer it to other providers, whatever you guys want to do. So that's kind of the topic that I don't want to talk about today. Before I jumped into some specific Etsy questions that I have, and like I said, if you guys have Etsy questions that you want, make sure you're asking them in the chat. It's free reign. I'm going to get through as many as I can before my voice dries out and I can't talk anymore. All right, so let's see what questions. Shabby says, "Do you have a sample where the viewers influence the algorithm listing score?" Um, I don't. So it's one of those things that I don't have a sample per se, but it's one of those things that we know specifically based on, because the quality score is based on a number of factors that Etsy gives, and basically your conversion rate plays into that. And the data points of that are how many people are visiting your listing, how many people are favoring it, and most importantly, how many people are buying that listing. So if you have a lot of people that are coming through Facebook or through social media and not buying, we know that the algorithm looks at your conversion rate, looks at visits, and compares the two and gives you a quality score. And that's one of the things that it helps rank your listing. So if you're getting 500 visits and no sales, that's not good. You at least want a 1 to 3% conversion rate, which is for every 100 visits you get to a listing, you at least want at least one sale. That's a good target range, usually even higher depending on your profit margins. So if you're getting a bunch of visits and no sales, we know that the algorithm's not looking at that very kindly, and chances are they're going to rank that less. And the same thing happens within Etsy itself. If you're getting a lot of traffic and people aren't clicking into your listing and they're not buying your listing, that hurts your quality score as well. So there's reasons behind why they're not buying. Um, inside and outside of Etsy, which could be different. So, and like I said, the opposite thing can happen. You could send your own traffic and people could buy, and it's going to help your score, and your listing is going to take off in Etsy. So it it just depends. So there's, and we could do a whole episode on the algorithm. I actually did I did a recent YouTube video. You can watch that, basically diving into the different components of the algorithm. But there's basically two components, just really quick to go over this so we can get into other questions. So there's the core research, and then there's the quality score that the algorithm gives you. So the core research is basically what people are typing into the box. If they're typing in the exact keywords that you're selling, then you have a chance of your listing being shown. But then you have the quality score part of it, which means there's a lot of that's where it gets super complicated. The quality score is made up a lot of factors. What, how the reviews on that listing, how it's done, the conversion rate of that listing. So there's a lot of different components of that, um, that make up the actual part of the quality score that goes along with the core research. We don't know how heavy those are weighted or not. Etsy obviously doesn't tell us, but they do tell us the specifics that kind of go into each, and different things. Like even your shop sections play into your quality score of that help your listings or hurt your listings. If all your shop sections are filled out, that helps build the know, like, and trust factor, which the algorithm likes. Also, people like that too. So there's a lot of different factors that play into it that are little pieces of the pie that all work together kind of behind the scenes to either rank your stuff higher or rank it lower. But I know how your listing does. If it gets sales, that's important to the algorithm. And I'm sure, I don't have proof, but I'm sure it's ranked higher than a lot of the other ones. All right. So if you guys have other questions, make sure to ask them in the chat. Let me see what other questions I got here from that people left me. All right. Martin just asked a question. Do you expect growth in your Etsy shop each year? I would say yes. I would say yes. That's what I expect, and that's usually a good indicator of performance. And the reason why I laughed a bit is because COVID threw us a wild card, the last couple of years, which has really thrown everyone for a loop, especially new sellers. So usually a good indicator, if you're new to selling, you sold last year and you're selling again this year, you want year over year growth. And if you're doing the right things, you should ultimately be getting year over year growth, even if it's incremental. It may be close, especially your first couple of years. My first 3 years were really close. I did have growth, but it wasn't a ton of growth. And I think that's probably what a lot of people see. Granted, you're doing the right things. You're working on your shop. You're increasing your product lines. So you always want to try to compare it to yourself, not to other sellers, because that's one way to get frustrated. It's one way to, uh, just feel crappy about yourself. Compare yourself to yourself when you're starting out. As long as you're taking action in your shop, you want to do year over year growth. If you're even newer than that, try to do month over month growth. Even though there's seasonality to it, it's always a good benchmark to try and improve month over month. But year over year is a good indicator. It's a good barometer of how you're doing. Now, what happened with the market with COVID? So Etsy has been growing. The entire marketplace has been growing steadily since 2005. Um, what happened with COVID was Etsy completely exploded, because it was a marketplace, everyone were coming by en masse. A lot of people were bored. They were starting businesses. So Etsy, it was something crazy. They had like a 130% year over year growth, from I think 2019 to 2020, in every benchmark, and sellers, buyers, overall revenue. So they had huge monumental growth. So a lot of people came to the platform, started off with a bang because everyone was coming to Etsy. They started off, they were doing fantastic, which never usually happens when you start an Etsy shop. People were starting off with a bang, having this crazy growth, these crazy first years on Etsy. And then as things started getting back to normal, that growth started to die off. Maybe their niches weren't as popular anymore. But normally, usually what happened was just people weren't not as many people were coming to Etsy. Their growth was still higher than previous years. It's still steadily improved if you don't count 2020. 2020 was kind of the anomaly. So things kind of went back to normal a little bit and it went back to their steady growth of before. But what happened, a lot of people had the wrong expectations because they just started selling on Etsy. They had this crazy 1 or 2 years, and then things started dying off, which normally doesn't happen. So I would say back to your question, Martin, was you would expect year over year growth with the exception of you may have that anomaly if you started around in the COVID years, where you may have seen a huge drop off, and that drop off was just because things were kind of resetting. So you may have to take a step back and just reset and start from here or from last year and try to improve again to start to try to get back to that COVID year, which may take some time. So there is an anomaly built in there, but overall, I think a good barometer is looking at year over year, comparing your performance year over year, and especially you can also look at month over month from prior year. So your December from last year, you want to try and beat the December from this year. You can also help it. You can also use prior months from prior years to help gauge how your performance is going to be or how it's going to come, what stock to get, how much stock to get, how much to prepare. So it can help guide your business that way too, as far as planning and getting things that you need to make sure that you have enough inventory, enough stock, and then you want to plan in hopefully some growth on top of that. So hopefully that was a very long-winded question. It would have been really simple to answer if we didn't have kind of the what was going on with the COVID and throwing everything for a loop. All right. So what other questions? Let me see here. All right. So Jesse, thoughts on free shipping versus building the cost into your price? I tried both, but think the overall lower price is more attractive. Not sure which way to go. Yeah, it depends on your niche. It depends on your competition, what you're going to set your pricing at. I usually do kind of a mix of both when it comes to the shipping into the price and shipping into the product. So I'll do a little bit lower shipping. I'll still charge for shipping. I still have the free shipping guarantee, which I recommend if it works for your margins. The free shipping guarantee of $35 or more. If it doesn't work for your margins, so be it. At least have some type of free shipping guarantee. Maybe it's $50, $100, some type of incentive for people to spend more. Anyways, I'll still charge shipping if they don't hit my free shipping guarantee, but I'll do it a little bit less than it costs, and I'll work that difference into my price. So normally it costs for first class shipping, around the $4 mark. Sometimes a little higher. I'm just going to say around $4. My shipping is $2.99, so it's a little bit less because I'm under the mindset that people don't mind paying for shipping as long as you're not gouging them for shipping. And I think they understand, especially when it comes to small businesses and marketplaces, that you're going to sometimes have to pay for shipping. And again, it depends on your niche. It depends what you're shipping, how you're going to do that, how big your items are. So that's kind of how I do it. And I think there's multiple ways to do it. If you want to just do free shipping no matter what and work that into your price, good. But I would rather at least have some type of incentive for them to spend more money to get free shipping. And a lot of big box stores, online stores have been doing that for ages. They have to spend a certain amount to get free shipping. I think that's expected. And I think that's a great way to increase the chances of people spending more money. All right. What else do we got here? Um, Yeah, I'm in Canada, so it's costly for the shipping to the US. Yeah, international is a whole different other whole nother animal when it comes to shipping, which I get. So that's something that you have to consider if you're shipping to specific countries, how much it costs. Each country is vastly different with shipping price, and that's something that I lost a lot of money sometime, and early on where I didn't charge enough for shipping. You can charge fixed shipping, calculated shipping, so that can kind of change things up too as far as how you want to do it. But yeah, international may be one of those things where you maybe be selectful who you ship to, and how much you charge depending on the country that you're shipping to, and you can adjust those things in your shipping profile as far as who you're shipping to, how much you want to charge. All right, so Atari Kid 74 asks, "Welcome, building a Shopify website, but I really want to go with Etsy, but I read about so many bans, people losing their shops, no explanations. What's the deal with all the banning?" Oh, it looks like Jesse answered this for me. You did my job for me. Most get suspended in the beginning to get verified, but if you are selling licensed items, you will eventually get banned. Ensure you are doing things that you create. Yeah, great answer, Jesse. So there, the talk of people getting banned is the overwhelming majority of people that are getting banned are not doing the right things. They're not abiding by Etsy's uh, handbook. They're selling stuff that they didn't create. They're selling stuff that is not vintage. So you have to, if you want to sell vintage, it has to be 20 years or older to sell vintage items. It cannot be newer than that. If you want to sell handmade items, either you have to make or design it, or you design it, have someone else make it. You can't have someone else design it and make it and be hands off. You can't just go on there and start selling random watches that someone else made that you didn't design. And that's where people get in trouble. They don't realize that Etsy is for handmade goods or vintage goods. They think it's eBay or Amazon or something like that, and they just sell whatever. So they don't pay attention. They go and just list a bunch of stuff up there, and that's how they get banned right away. There are some instances where people, certain things aren't verified correctly, or they're just there's some mistakes made by Etsy where a new shop opens up and then it gets suspended mistakenly, and then you just have to appeal it. And usually you can get it open back up, especially if you're doing things the right way. Those are more rare. What I usually see is people going on there, selling the stuff, that the Disney items, the stuff that's trademarked and copyrighted. And if you go on, you open a new shop and you put up 10 copyrighted or trademark items, you put up 10 Baby Yoda items, I guarantee you will be suspended, very, very quick, and probably permanently suspended. And what that means is people, they won't let you ever open an Etsy shop again. They'll flag your IP address, they'll flag all your information. So if you try to open another Etsy shop, you're not going to be able to, even if you do want to do things the right way. So just keep that in mind. So as long as you're making the stuff, you're designing the stuff, one, and it's not copyrighted or trademarked, two, you're good to go. Um, so anything out there, popular culture, movies, quotes, bands, Disney, that stuff's all copyrighted and trademarked. You can't, just because you can knit a Baby Yoda doesn't mean you can sell it on Etsy, and that's a lot of people don't understand that. Just because you can make a Minnesota Vikings NFL football hat yourself doesn't mean you can sell it on Etsy, because it's not yours to sell. It's licensed, trademark stuff. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing things the right way, you have absolutely nothing to worry about. You're not going to get banned. All right. All right. Hannah, welcome. Glad you can make it as well. So what are your thoughts on improving poor listings versus starting afresh? So when you first list an item, the Etsy gives you a small SEO boost to kind of see how it's going to do. And then from there, it's going to start building in, quality score behind the scenes. And hopefully things are going well, and it'll start ranking your listing good. If you're getting visits, if you're getting sales, and then all the other components that play into it, you will help rank your listing better. But if it's not getting those things, it's going to start ranking your listing worse and worse, which means it's going to go from maybe the first or second page to the third page, and then the fourth page, and then the sixth page, down and down and down. The chances of getting visits from there is going to be a lot harder, because it's just people aren't going to go to the 10th page of Etsy to look for stuff. It's just people just don't do that. Um, so, or scroll down. I think Etsy, you can continuously scroll now. Anyways, either way, they're not going to scroll forever to find your stuff. So then you have a couple of options. You have the option to try and bring that listing back, which is usually the first and viable option. And that usually means adjusting something on the listing to try and help get it ranking better, performing better. So if you're looking at, and this is where you got to look into your listing stats to kind of see what the story it's telling. Your listing stats will tell you a lot about what's going on with that listing if you know what they mean. And by the listing stats, I'm specifically talking about visits. So how many visits you're getting with that listing. And from there, visits and sales, chances are, if we're talking about this, you're not getting any sales. So are you getting visits to that listing? Like I said before, usually, you can start with a benchmark of a 1% conversion. That's 100 visits per one sale. So usually if you're starting kind of at the bottom tier or the bottom level of conversion, which you want to try and shoot for to start, if your listing doesn't have 100 visits, it's probably not going to have any sales yet. You just didn't have enough time. So you may need to let it sit and give it more time because it's not getting enough traffic yet. And there's a time factor that plays into this too. If your listing's been up for 2 weeks, of course, there's not enough time. You shouldn't make any changes. You shouldn't make any changes for at least probably the first two renewal cycles, which is which is 6 months before you see what's going on with that listing. After that time, if you're still not getting visits, that tells us that, okay, people aren't clicking into my listing. They're not clicking into it. So what could that mean? Well, if people aren't clicking into the listing, they're not interested in what I'm selling. They're seeing it, but they're not interested in clicking in it. That could be you're targeting the wrong audience, meaning you have the wrong keywords, or something's going on with your picture. People just don't want to click on it. It's not intriguing to them to click on it. Your picture's fuzzy, or you can't tell what the item is. So usually it's one of those things that people aren't actually clicking into it, causing you not to get any visits, and of course not to get any sales. But on the other hand, so you can kind of start there and tweak maybe your picture. Chances are it's probably your picture or pricing or something like that. People aren't clicking into it because of those things. But if you are getting visits, so say we're looking at this in 6 months and you're getting 200 visits and you have no sales, well, there's another problem going on there. They're clicking into it. They like what they see because they're clicking in it, but they're not buying. So maybe for whatever reason, they're not buying because there's the wrong expectations in the listing. There's something they don't understand. There's some type of confusion. Something looks wonky to them. Again, maybe the pricing. There's just something going on with the listing where they're not apt to buy the listing buy that item for whatever reason. So then you have to kind of go that route and ask yourself, um, why aren't people buying? What's going on? So that's kind of the stats will tell you, usually what's going on. Low visits mean, it's probably an SEO problem. High visits mean it's some other type of problem going on. But that's kind of gives you a good starting point to start tweaking things. And then once you start, after trying to bring it back, kind of back to the timetable thing, is after a certain point, if you made some adjustments, and granted, you want to make adjustments and then wait another couple of weeks to see if that worked. You don't want to change it every day. You don't want to change it every week. You got to give it more time because the algorithm resets, it recategorizes your item and tries to get it to the right audience again. So you want to give it a little bit more time. But I would say after a couple of times trying to tweak it, there comes to a point of no return where that listing's probably not going to come back. It's probably a good time to scratch it completely, or if you still believe in the product, if there's still market, people are buying that type of stuff, then start fresh. Just copy the listing, start fresh, new SEO, maybe new pictures, with a new all that stuff fresh to kind of just start from scratch, and then hopefully you'll get it to perform better. So Those are kind of the two ways to do it. To ask your question, a lot of it deals with patience, and I think the biggest mistake that people usually make is they make too many changes too fast. Um, and just you got to be patient with selling, on Etsy specifically, and it's usually the worst thing because we're an instant gratification society. And we hate being patient. We want to put something up and we want to get sales. If it's not working, we want to try and fix it to get a sale, and it's just you can't do that. You got to let it sit, use the data that it generates to help you be strategic and make decisions going forward. All right, what other questions we got here? My voice is, oh man, already giving me some issues here. Martin, good question. Do you recommend building an email list for Etsy shops? Absolutely. This is something I was talking about earlier. I'm not sure if you were here yet, but I was talking a little bit about social media. Email list, I think, is probably the most important thing that you could do for future growth and future potential within any business, not even Etsy. It's been proven email converts at a much higher rate than social media. It's easier in the fact that you own your email list. It can't be taken away from you, can't be shut down. You can download your email list, have it, market to people when you want to market to them. When you post something on Facebook, it's only shown to a certain number of people. It's not shown to all the people that follow your business page. Just like when you post something on your personal page, it's not shown to all your friends. Facebook chooses a certain percentage of people who that's shown to. When you send an email, it's gonna, outside of the spam blockers that happen sometimes, it's gonna be shown to everyone in your email list. So it's not necessarily filtered out. Again, spam does. If you're doing things the right way, you shouldn't get filtered out by spam filters. But that does happen from here and there. But I recommend doing it because the conversion's much better. You can build much more of a loyal following that way. You market to those people directly and engage with them directly, and it takes time. Building an email list is not, again, it's not an overnight thing. It takes time to do it, but once you have it and you build it slowly over time, if you start your business, you may get a couple subscribers a month, if that, but you're just doing that over time and it's building in the background. And then eventually within your business, you're going to have uh, larger and larger email list. And there's nothing more, nothing more exciting than sending an email out and getting sales right away from an email that you sent out. It's a really great way to get extra revenue and build more of a loyal following, because you're not always going to send an email just asking people to buy. You're going to do a lot of different things to build loyalty within your email list. Whether it's promotions, new products, behind the scenes type stuff. Just like with social media, you're not going to post on social media and ask people to buy, or you shouldn't, because that's not going to work. People are going to unsubscribe or unfollow you really quick if that's all you're doing is asking people to buy and not building value in other ways. So hopefully that answers your question. All right. So Tari Kid, what about print on demand, t-shirts, artwork? That's not vintage or handmade. Yeah, you can do print on demand, which is kind of like drop shipping. But you're still creating the actual design for print on demand. So you can't take a design that you find on Canva and just plop it on a print on demand shirt and sell it. That's against Etsy's rules. You have to still create the design, create the artwork that you're actually putting on the products and selling. The print on demand company is going to fulfill it for you. They're going to ship it out for you and do all that stuff. But you got to make sure that you're creating the artwork for it. So that's part of the rules and regulations. So you can do it. Just make sure you're creating the stuff. It used to be back in the day, they didn't allow any, they call it manufacturing partners. They didn't allow any of that, but they did change it a couple of years ago, which they had started allowing print on demand companies, which did two things. It opened the doors for more people to sell on Etsy, for more people to get in there because the barrier to entry was lower, which is a good thing, right? More people on the platform, more people using it to help grow it. But it also opened the door for more bad actors, right? Which always happens. The bad actors where they're selling copyrighted trademark stuff because it's easier to do it because they are allowing manufacturing partners. So if you want to just stay out of hot water, just make sure you're designing your own stuff, you're creating your own artwork, and then you can absolutely sell stuff via a print on demand company. All right. You are very welcome, Hannah. Glad I could help you out. All right, we still have some time for we got through a lot of questions pretty quick. So if you guys have some more questions, more burning questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. And I did have one question that I wanted to get to from I have a couple. I have a bunch of questions actually. So, one question that has it better to have a store with both digital and physical items, or to open a new store with just digital items? So, this was a good question. I didn't write down the name of who asked this, but so you can have both digital items. Basically, digital items are like are basically downloadable stuff, like downloadable um, checklists or ebooks or stickers or any type of thing like that, where people buy the file, and then they basically Etsy will automatically email them the file that you uploaded in your listing, and then they can use it for whatever they want outside of the if it's licensed or whatever, you can put that in your listing that they can't use it for to resell it or anything like that. Anyways, so those are digital items. So really, it just comes down to your shop as yeah, Jesse, you have one with both digital and physical. Yeah, it really comes down to your niche, and what you're selling. If you want to kind of put those together, I always would like people to side, especially early on, to having one shop. It's just going to make your life a lot easier to have one shop, and because managing two shops when you're just learning Etsy and you're trying to grow it is a lot bigger of a lift than managing one shop only. So if it makes sense, try to get both of those things in the same shop. And usually it's simple. It's as simple as a branding. Maybe you need to go a little bit more broader with your branding, um, and not be as specific if you're selling things that are maybe not quite as the same. But normally you can make it work, and then you know just define your niche. And if those, even the physical items and the digital items, are a little bit different, you're still good as long as you're building out a product catalog too, and you're not I try to refrain people from selling just one-off items, random stuff, because that's something you see too. A lot of people open up stores and they sell one-off, like a little bit of everything, one-off items, and that's hard to do with a non-vintage store, just because the algorithm doesn't know what the heck you're an expert in selling, what the heck, where to send traffic to. It's a lot better if you're opening up a store selling something. It's good to open up a product line, rather than just one-off items, to help bring up, have more data that the algorithm can work with, have more keywords based on that subject matter. It will help you out. So rather than just doing one downloadable sticker and then physical t-shirts, you're better off doing a bunch of downloadable stickers. Maybe it's funny quotes, and then you do a whole product line of different funny quotes, and that tells the algorithm, like, okay, this shop is a specialty in funny quote stickers. When someone is looking for a funny quote sticker, they're more apt to send the traffic your way than a shop that just has maybe one sticker with one funny quote on it. So kind of think about it in terms of as far as product lines. But if your niches are completely from one end of the spectrum that make no sense at all, maybe you sell wedding, downloadable wedding, what do you call those things? Invitations, downloadable wedding thing, invitations, for one, and then you're selling, I don't know, slime kits or something like that. Those things should never be in the same shop. That makes no earthly sense. So maybe you just want to get rid of one of those niches while you're starting out, build it out, and then down the road open a second shop selling that other thing that you want to sell. All right, so Morbius said, I just opened a store offering tarot, astrology readings in time. I'm considering adding POD items that go with the readings. Do you think this is diverse of an offering. Yeah, no, that's what you would want to do, something like that. So if you're, it makes sense. They're tailored together. It's an accessory based on what you're selling. So you're telling tarot readings, and then you're going to sell POD items, maybe a tarot. People are coming to your shop because they like your tarot readings. They're using them to learn, do their own tarot stuff. So of course they may want a tarot shirt or a tarot mug or necklace or something related to it. So it's still in the niche, and you're still capitalizing on that audience that's coming your way. It's the same thing, if you're selling, if you're selling dog stuff, dog accessories, and then you want to start selling funny dog shirts. There's still, it's the same audience coming to your shop, so it could still work. It's close enough. You're capitalizing on the same audience. So yes, that would absolutely be a good way. Um, it would be a good way for people to to put those two things together. So Jesse, yes, I do Etsy critiques. I haven't done one on this new show, but I am planning to do some in the future. So keep that in mind. Also, I have the Handmade and Beyond community over at handmadeandbeyond.com with resources. There is a private community; it's paid, where I dive into Etsy shops and work one on one with people and stuff like that. So make sure you check that out. But I am considering adding that into a part of the show. This week I did the topic segment. In the future, I'm probably going to do either shop and or listing critiques, and I'll ask for people to share their stores or their listings. So that's something I definitely want to do and make part of the show as well, because I think it's a great way for people to learn and kind of see what's going on with other people's shops, and we can all kind of work together and learn together and improve, which is what this is all about. All right. Hannah says, how many venues do you sell on, and where would you rank Etsy for ease of use, sales, etc.? I'm still debating on eBay, but haven't taken a leap yet. So I've sold, I've sold everywhere. No, not everywhere, but I've sold a lot of places. So when I started out, and this depends on your niche too, right? It depends on what you're selling, and it's always good to put more lines in the water to test new things. And I'm a prime example of that. When I first started selling stuff, I started selling. My number one Etsy store is a graphic shirt store. I do my own screen print my own, create my designs, and sell them. I started selling them on Etsy or on eBay. I never even heard of Etsy. So I was selling on eBay, and I sold on eBay for years. I've been selling on eBay since 2000, different stuff, things around the house, things I found at flea markets. Great way to make extra money. So I've been selling on eBay. So naturally, that was going to be where I wanted to start, was eBay, because that's what I knew. I sold on it for years. So I started, and I was doing okay. I mean, I was making sales here and there, nothing kind of what I wanted to do. I knew I could probably make more sales, but I wasn't familiar with Etsy yet. And then I found Etsy. I was trying to find a necklace for my then girlfriend. Now it's my wife, but I was trying to find, I think that sealed the deal, was my Etsy necklace, sealed the deal. Anyways, I was like, what is this Etsy? And it was funny because when I found it, I was thinking, and this was probably 2013, 14. I was like, what is Etsy? It sounds kind of shady. I was like, I don't know if this thing, I don't think if the thing is legit. I hope it is. So I spent the money on it, and it came. I was like, okay, Etsy's legit. And I was like, man, people are selling stuff on here. So I was like, I think I'm gonna try this Etsy thing out. And then I started putting more and more listings up there, and it took me a while to get my first sale. I think it was a month or two, maybe even been 3 months before I got my first sale. I was like, all right, this thing does work. So I started putting more time and energy into it. And then after, a while, things started selling, and then things started selling better than eBay. And eventually after a couple of years, I just started really backing down from eBay because Etsy was doing way better. So I wanted to put all my resources into the platform that was doing the best to continue to grow that, because I had a ways to go with what I wanted to do. So I kind of backed off eBay. So that's a good indication of, you should never put all your eggs in one basket. And if it makes sense strategically, and for your niche, you may want to try some of these other platforms, because it may work better. I'm always testing other things to kind of see how they work. and you may get a couple of sales in a couple of different places, and that's extra money, that's extra revenue. But you just have to be careful at putting all your eggs all over the place and chasing. It's what we do as entrepreneurs. We this shiny object syndrome, where there's a new shiny ball, and we're like, oh, we run, then all of our energy, we're almost getting things built, we're making good progress in Etsy or wherever, and then you chase another shiny ball. You chase the new social media or the new selling marketplace, and then your store that was progressing nicely dive bombs because you're not putting any time or energy into it. So there's a fine line there between testing and expending the energy and time where it could be better suited within one platform versus the other. But you can, I think, do some strategic testing, kind of see what may work better for yours versus other platforms. And eBay is the number two or three largest e-commerce platform out there. I think it's still, obviously Amazon's number one. Then I think it's eBay, and then I think it's Walmart online, and then I think it's Etsy. And they're close. And don't quote me on that, but they're close. So those are always good places to start. Amazon, extremely hard to sell on. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. It's not easy. It's very cumbersome of a platform. eBay is not great too. It can be a little cumbersome. It's a lot easier to list on your phone than on eBay's actual website. So I would say compared to those two, Etsy is way easier to list on. It's way easier to list on. It's more user friendly to list on versus those other two platforms. And then there's other ones out there. There's Mercari. That one's pretty big. That's pretty easy to list on as well. And they have an app, so you can sell. I think you can sell anything on Mercari. There's no, just like eBay. There's no restrictions outside of the crazy stuff, obviously. Um, so yeah, those are some ones that you may want to try. There's newer stuff out there. The new one is the new handmade one is Go Imagine. That one is they don't have a lot of the bells and whistles that Etsy has, and they really don't have any hardly any traffic yet. So it's really hard to make sales on there. They're so new. I know a lot of people are jumping over to them because they stand for a good cause and stuff, but the traffic is very minuscule to what Etsy has. So it's going to be a while for them to get anywhere close if they ever do. And there's been other ones in the past that have tried to compete, and then no one has ever been able to. I think competition is good. It can help these e-commerce platforms improve. It could help Etsy improve, but it's Etsy's a bear. I mean, it's going to be really, really hard. Um, Really, really hard to catch them. So that's kind of my take, the whole long-winded explanation of of different platforms and how hard they are to use. But I always encourage people to try different things, put more lines in the water, but just be strategic about it. All right. Let me see what other questions. All right. So yeah, Jesse said I watched your live from earlier today and was interested in a listing that closed as a result of not being able to get tanks any longer. Why did you not use the same listing and adjust it? So I pivoted to new at the time. I mean, this was years ago, and I had some other listings that I put the design on. Yeah, so basically what happened was I could not get that specific tank. It was a burnout tank top. They stopped selling. I couldn't get it from anywhere. So I couldn't use that listing selling that specific tank because I couldn't get it anymore. So I was like, well, I can't sell this. I'm just going to deactivate the listing and activate other listings. And some of them I already did. I sold that design on other tanks and t-shirts. But at the time, and this is a really good point, I didn't think of actually changing that listing around and seeing if I could still get it to perform. Basically, changing it out where it was a different tank top, but it was still a tank. Changing the description, changing the picture. That may have worked at the time. I mean, I it may have, but the fact that I would have been changing so much stuff, I doubt it would have worked as well, but it still may have worked. And it's one of the things that since it was years ago, I didn't know what I didn't, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I made a mistake. So so thanks for pouring more salt in the wound. You're making me relive it again. Oh man. But yeah, I mean that's a very good point. And it could have worked. But I guess we will never know. Maybe I'll go back. I mean, it's been years, but maybe I'll go back and try it and see if I can reactivate it after a couple of years. um, he feels so bad now. you just you ruined my night. Now I'm gonna go cry in my pillow. And uh, yeah, I mean, you make a really good point. You know, that's this. If I could if I could tell you some of the crazy mistakes that I made in the year, so that's why you shouldn't feel bad. You should, take action. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna do dumb stuff. It's part of running a business, growing a business. Mistakes happen as long as you learn from them, pivot, and just you got to keep going, man. You can't fret on these mistakes, the stupid stuff that you do for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a journey, a learning process. That is for sure. But if you're learning and continuing to move on, that's all you can do, right? All right, so I got time for we're over time, but if you guys want to ask me one more question, I will answer it and then I will get out of your hair for tonight. We got through a lot. I mean, you guys asked some really good questions. So we got through rifled through a lot of these questions. All right. Morbius looking for store reviews. Yep, I'll be like I said, I'll be working that into the show. That's one of the segments that I want to do in the future for sure, so we can all learn together. Hannah, I sold a few items on eBay when I first started out and didn't have the best experience, but I've learned since then. And I sold personal bits. I think you're right about balancing your lines in the water. Yeah, and it may be one of those things that you bounce back to. It's like I said, if you sell a couple items a month, I mean that's extra revenue. Um, if you're being strategic, the main thing that really helped me was setting a specific schedule, especially when I left the corporate world in 2018 to do Etsy full time. When you're I was a director at 150 employees. Had all this things on my plate, but my day was planned for me. My day was structured. I structured my own day, but I had people scheduling meetings. I had to meet with my bosses. I had to meet with my employees. Everything was planned out. So when you leave to do your own thing, it's great. It's you have the freedom to do anything, which is amazing feeling. But then you have to schedule the things to do the things. So it's like you have so much freedom that you're like, oh crap, what do I do? I don't know. I know what I have to do 1,000 things to grow this business, but what do I do and when do I do it? So what really helped me was taking a step back and creating a schedule for myself. Obviously it can be changed. You don't want to get too rigid because part of owning your business is having that freedom, but scheduling certain days of the week when you did specific things and you had specific goals, specific metrics really helped me move my business forward and accomplish those things. So, for instance, say you want to, you need to grow your Etsy business. So Thursdays are the day that you do new listings. So you set a goal. I'm going to do 10 new listings on Thursday, and that's the day that I'm working on my Etsy business. And maybe that's not the only thing that you're doing. Maybe you want to do revamp 5 listings where your SEO is failing or your listings aren't doing well. So that's your Thursday. Friday, maybe you package Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you package orders and send orders off. Maybe Tuesday is where you do market research, SEO research, new product research to figure out, or designing, or whatever you want to do. And you have a specific number tied to that. Maybe Sundays are the day that you want to do, okay, I want to try and grow this through a different channel. I'm going to put up 5 eBay listings on Sundays. So that really gives you a little bit of structure. So you're not waking up and you're like completely overwhelmed because you got a million things that you want to do. You just don't know what to work on first. What's the most important based on your goals, based on a certain strategy. So that's what I would do. That's what really helped me. And then also what I do is the night before, I have that loose schedule, right, where I know kind of what I'm working on each day. again, it can change, but it's there. But then the night before, I'll write out the specifics of what I'm going to do. Where that's where I'll do. Okay, it's Monday night. I know Tuesday. My goal is to work on my Etsy shop. Okay, what are the specific things that I'm going to work on? What are the specific numbers? And that's what I want to accomplish. And it's amazing when you wake up and like, oh, my goal was 10 listings. I did it. I check marked it. It's great. And that is a great way. I know that's going to help grow my business. I know that's going to help me in the future. And I did it. So that's what I would do relating to kind of helping you. I don't even how I even got on this topic. But anyways, I go do this a lot. I went down on a tangent. But anyway, if you're running your own business, whether it's full time, part time, or even as a hobby, that's a good way to structure your day and your time so you have specific goals and specific things that you could achieve. Schedules and structure are my nemesis. Yeah, and again, you can't be too rigid because it's going to take the fun out of it, but it really help kind of guide you, and it helped me. It was something that I struggle with a lot and create a lot of extra stress early on after I left the corporate world. Everything was really, really structured. But that is it for the show. If you guys like this show, please, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Leave me feedback on the show if you liked it. If you want to support the show, you can join the channel as a supporter or a student. I appreciate it. There's also links in most of my videos to buy me a coffee. It helps keep me motivated and wired to bring you guys new videos, new content, and do these shows. Also, I have the Handmade and Beyond community over at handmadeandbeyond.com. Where there's private community, there's paid, and a lot of free resources for you guys. I have both. I want to make sure that I give you a lot of options to learn and grow your business. But I appreciate the support. It helps me keep going, keep investing time and energy in new videos, new content, and new resources to help you guys out. The next show is scheduled for June 6th. So we're gonna do. I may tweak it a little bit based on what the comments and how you guys liked it. There's gonna be people watching this show because it's gonna be in the YouTube channel. It's gonna be recorded, so you can go back and watch it. If you missed the beginning of the show, go back and watch it. I covered some Etsy news stuff. I covered a topic, and then I started answering questions. But the next show will be live again. Another hour planned for you guys. I appreciate you guys coming to the first one, the first of hopefully many bi-weekly shows. I'm going to keep it bi-weekly. If things really start taking off, I may move it to weekly. Who knows? I don't want to put too much stuff on my on my plate, but we'll kind of see how things go. But that is it for today. Have an amazing rest of your night, and I'll be back soon. Stay tuned for some more videos and stuff coming out on the channel as well, in the YouTube channel. And then I have a podcast too. If you don't always want to watch YouTube, I do a lot of the same stuff, but just in audio only format on the podcast, wherever you guys want to listen to podcasts. But that is it. Have an amazing rest of your night, guys.